backed up every day. It's basically real time, and so that is a great thing that we sleep well at night for that opportunity. It's not housed on a local server. Next slide. Chart of accounts. So the U.S. Department of Education has certain expectations and reporting requirements through all the states, and the key component is the fund, which are the different chart of account elements. So every month I'm presenting to you financials with a number of these components in them, per the direction of the state, and also the state has to create aggregate reports to roll everything up so it all comes in one. So the main components of a budget string that we have to keep track of are the fund, which is what we've talked about every month, general fund, special revenue fund, construction fund, etc. A unit would be a location. A function would be the area that expenditure is for, whether it be instruction, maintenance, transportation, etc. Program, so there's GT, special ed, ALE, a number of different areas. Instructional level, so even within instruction, there's different levels like kindergarten, first grade through fifth, middle school, etc. And then object is typically on reports pulled up. It gives the level of detail, whether it be gasoline, supplies, materials, purchase service. It's one of the finite level of detail in that particular type of expenditure, as well as a project. And we have a number of projects. Every federal fund has a project. Every department, for the most, or a lot of the departments, have a project number, and those projects can span across the different funds. So to summarize, you're telling a story every time you pull up a budget string for how we are coding things, and across a lot of businesses and different industries, you don't always see that in terms of the level of detail that we get to. Next slide, please. Chart of accounts. So with all those different combinations, you have up to 24,000 different budget strings that have to be coded. So I don't know every budget string, to be honest. I don't have them all memorized. I've got a pretty good bank for recall, but if you want to fall asleep at night, you can try to memorize all 24,000 in different series. But it's a great opportunity. Number of projects, just active projects in our database, 894. Local grants, active 207. Now, a lot of us are not being utilized in recent years, but you can see our database is pretty significant. State grants, 180. Off the top of my head, we probably have around 15 to 30 state grants in a current year right now. And then federal projects. You're talking about an estimated 40. And every federal project, every state grant, every local grant has its own unique restrictions, has its own unique rules, and different things with every one of those grants. And it can be overwhelming at times if you let it be, because of all the different pots of money and keeping up with the different things. Activity projects, every month about our student and district student activity funds, or yes funds. So those are all the activity projects, whether it be library activity fund for at district level, or a student first grade account at an elementary school. So it's a lot to keep up with there that our schools do a great job with, and in turn our staff here at Central Office. Construction projects, and there's a project for all the significant construction projects that go on. Next slide, please. General fund. So now getting to the financial piece after I've given the background on the general fund, and this is district to district, but what I've always tried to approach in terms of our general fund is 3 to 4 months of at least operating expenses for the general fund to have a legal fund balance. There's always going to be a rainy day at times, and so this is where the collaboration, coordination between leadership and instruction leadership and fiscal communication have to occur, because that's the goal. But there may be an extreme where you have a significant natural disaster hit, or an extreme item that the board, in combination with the leadership, recognize that and need to address such a thing. But on average, you should try to shoot for that 3 month of operating expense on average to maintain that, just in case if there is one of those significant events or decisions that it doesn't lead you down a path that you don't want to go. All activity funds should always be self-sufficient. That's an opportunity for the groups to provide, to do such a thing. But as much as possible, they should always be self-sufficient. Child nutrition, and this is a professional opinion, you really should operate your child nutrition program in most settings self-sufficient where you're not depending on the general fund. There are some exceptions to that rule sometimes, but a program that's run well should be self-sufficient where it's not supplemented by the general fund. And Ms. Fire always brag out her team doing a great job. It is self-sufficient. Daycare, that one should be self-sufficient. Let's work recognizes that and support it in terms of going direction where they have to advance and supplement our general fund. So those are just highlights of some different analysis. First slide, please. AFRF Balance. So on the report tonight, since we just audited AFRF double submission today, I haven't reported through FY20 since it's not finalized, but I just want to provide a real quick reference. I went on the DD website and I took all the AFRF balances at the end of FY20, and I sorted my percentage of fund balance versus total expenditures from the year to date. And we were at the middle of the road. The line shows 80, it was an immediate, but it's really, since there's 3 rows, we're around 77th in the entire state in terms of that percentage. So, my personal opinion, you don't want to be at the bottom for that percentage because that's not a good thing in terms of financial standing. But then again, it's really the who you get at the top, because then you're going to be those opportunities to evaluate construction teams and you're going to be within your school district, not just having money for that general fund percentage. Now, there may be justified reason why you go that way, and vice versa, but we're at 22.75 at the end of fiscal year 20, just for reference. Okay, turning the slide.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a way to address that for fiscal year 20 and also for fiscal year 21 since it's
Once it finalizes, yes.
Yes, and it finalizes with the approval of the audits?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the AFR fund balance report, just through the last 3 years, FY18, as you can see, we were at a little over 7.9 million for the fund balance. 2019, we had a drop in 6.9. I know there was, it dropped to 6.9 in that fiscal year, and then fiscal year 20, it dropped to 6.8. Not a significant drop, and I think there's probably some decisions taken in that fiscal year 19 that I can't speak to, not being here at that point. If I'm not mistaken, there was a transfer of 600,000, and if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Springate, I know you were on the board that year in FY19, do you recall?
We did set aside 600,000 for the MI project, and then we later and put that back into the 350 construction.
Yeah. So you can see that, it goes up and down in terms of the...
Was there also a cash allotment paid to the BG1 in that fiscal year that was not related to the restriction? Do you remember how much that was?
I believe it was around $1 million, but I'm not so sure. Honestly, I'd like to have the reports for honestly all of these years so we could kind of go back and see if it's like an anomaly or if it's a pattern, if it's something we should be concerned about.
Sure.
I think that may account for the 600, but I need to go back and look at what was the cash that was allowed on the BG1 when we initially did that.
I know in the last few years we booked 350. For 20 we did the 350 and then 21 350. But I noticed the 619 didn't want to see that turn not being here. So okay, let's go ahead and turn the slide. Bonds outstanding. So we've got currently 5 bonds that are currently outstanding. One bond will fall off at the end of this fiscal year. There are actually 2 payments. One payment will be made this fall, and then another payment will be made in the spring/summer, and that will end the 2012 acquisition of land adjacent to the middle school. So that's a positive thing. That bond payment will fall off at the end of 2022.
And on that, that's not the total purchase price, so that's with the cash payment and funding.
Yes, ma'am. I think I'll go back and pull that. There's 2 components. There was the payment through cash and the bond off the top of my head. Turn this slide. Here's the budget for the new high school. So this is just recapping what's happened in the last few months. In June of 20, BG1 included was a little bit over 45 million, 45.3 specifically. That's a typo, I apologize. But the June of 20 BG1 did not include the auditorium. It should have moved over to the right side. So in June of 20, that 45.3 did not include the auditorium. And then on the right-hand side, in October 21, there were 57 million. Did include the auditorium in the base bid. So it included a little bit over $2 million budgeted at that point in terms of cost. So when you take out that $2 million against the difference between 45 million and 57 million, you get to 11.6. And that's really not true apples to apples. So you really need to take out $2 million to be apples to apples cost. And unfortunately, like we've all seen talk about, just seen recently, recent bids coming out in the local economy, those construction costs keep on going up, and just unfortunate. So that is the net between those 2 BG1s. And again, did not include the auditorium in the base bid of June 20. They did all right.
I'm going to update that for the event to be posted, just to make that little correction. If you do end up updating that, would you mind including the first BG1 that was done in 2019 for the $37 million? So we'll have all 3.
Sure. Yes.
Thank you.
So the original BG1.
So you'd like to have that going forward, because I imagine you probably can't get the slide updated since he's going to do the full budget work session. Just for our meeting tonight, would you like to have that provided?
Yeah, because people go back and look at the attachments, it's important that it's just accurate, that's all. I assume that we do that whenever we have.
The only thing is, with that one, was the full, I think the essence of the project was different too. I'm happy to do that.
I think just to know any changes that
Yeah.
we made.
Yes. Okay, moving on.
The easiest way to do that may just be to physically attach the BG1 documents.
Sure.
And then that way it'll spell out how the cash allocation, how the fund allocation, how everything was.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is just a real quick estimate in terms of the percentages on what our budget comprises of in the different categories. And this is just the general fund, special revenue fund, the child nutrition, daycare, and community education, just those particular funds. So when you pull those up, it's a little bit over 78% on the FY21 personnel piece, and then non-personnel is 28.2. And this is so hard because we've had these influx of federal funds that have kind of skewed some of the numbers and percentages. So you really have to go back to FY19 for the last true year without COVID, the COVID influx of funding and just different variables of kids not being in school and those things that have played a part on both sides in terms of those categories. But roughly our budget was 76.21% and 23.9 in terms of different categories. We include those 5 different fund areas. So turn the page, or the slide, please.
Yeah.
Just one quick question, Mark. Do you feel like the overall, I'm assuming overall dollars for those non-personnel costs have actually gone down over the course of those years just because schools have been closed, we haven't had all the normal operations that you have when you open every day?
Absolutely. It's give and take. Fuel, obviously, and fuel in terms of the non-personnel piece, but then I'm drawing a blank, cleaning supplies, utilities, this is not piece, have declined, just those different components, as well as in the personnel piece. We didn't have a cost on sub. We've had to hire some additional staff in different areas. So that's the tough part. I mean, you'll see in this, you've seen it up this year already in FY22. We do a budget, but sometimes we can only estimate on certain things. We've had, this is now only we've had 3 years of a non-consistent school year. So we do our best.
Yeah, it's tough to normalize that, I think, over the course of the years, so.
And with respect to those declined numbers, the income and the expenditure were actually growing in those periods with tax increases, the revenue increases, and then, on the personnel increase, we did a 2% raise, so it's 20% or 21%, a different number than it was in FY 19 as
Yes,
well.
ma'am. And that's why, yes, and that's a great point. That's why that FY 21 spike, part of that percentage increase is because the incentive that occurred in May and June. And so that was a pretty decent percentage increase. So it's not really fair to assess our budget, as long as the pandemic is going on with the situation, in my opinion.
And I do think that would be important, as we get through this process, is identifying those sort of extraordinary expenses that are not repeating, that we need to make sure to consider.
Yes, ma'am.
So the bonuses, the one-time bonuses are included in 78.1 million.
Yes, ma'am, that FY 21 year. Okay, moving on to the next slide. And this is not all. These are just some of the highlights that I'm proud of, not only the business office, but the schools and the different departments, whether it's daycare and technology, Safe Schools with Mr. Wells and Mr. Sutton, and some of the different groups that have done the legwork. A number of these grants are by the initiative of our people to obtain these grants, and as well as get the expenditures in a proper manner and bring back value to our staff and buildings and programs and instruction. So all these different groups have gone above and beyond in terms of making sure that we take advantage of some of these opportunities. And I touched on most of these throughout the last year to 14 months, so I'm not going to go in depth, but I'm proud of what's going on here in Woodward and some of these opportunities going above and beyond. So again, publicly thank you for all the groups that had a big part in this. Let's go ahead and turn the page or the slide. And I'm going to go quick over this one. I just thought it was interesting in terms of different areas. This is really isn't my specific area in terms of population assessment, but I did want to point out that we do have poverty in our school district, like we all know, and those kids a lot of times get that love and support more than a good percentage of students in our district. So this economically disadvantaged count, and I sorted it by the poverty percentage in the state, or the districts in the state, and you can see some of the surrounding, you can see some of the other districts and where we fall within those poverty percentages, which absolutely have an effect, not an effect in terms of our budget, providing all the great resources and support that we do to our kids and our staff. But to know that we're a great outlet